Okay. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. And today we have a very special treat because I get asked probably more often than anything else about finances, my spreadsheet, how I record things, taxes, and all of that. And it sounds scary, but it's not. And I have for us Mark, who is a CPA, and he specializes in helping resellers with their taxes. And he is here to talk to us about some of your most frequently asked finance and tax questions, as well as some of the insights he has into what can help you with your business. So thank you, Mark, for joining us today. First of all, just give us some background. Tell us about like how you fell into accounting and how especially you came into wanting to help resellers with their taxes.
Yeah, so thanks. So I did study accounting in college. I didn't really love it, but went to work for a public accounting firm, became a CPA, was kind of doing the normal public accounting thing. Didn't love it, but I actually went back to school, kind of shifted toward finance and worked in corporate finance for a few years. But along the way, started doing taxes on the side, just as kind of an experiment to see if it was something that could ever become anything. And eventually eventually picked up some clients who came back and said, hey, we have this podcast with 10,000 listeners or whatever, and they're all eBay sellers. You want to come talk to them? And I was like, okay, I don't know anything about eBay, but let's do it. And then, from that started getting people emailing me, and then, some of them were YouTubers, and then more people started emailing me, and I was like, I should just make this my niche, just do only this. And that was a few years ago. And, since then I've started selling online on Amazon mainly. And, I really just like being a part of the community. It's a lot of people who are motivated and they're pretty tech savvy, and it's just really easy to work virtually with a lot of people doing, out there hustling. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I think you recognize a very a niche that we need really bad. Like we as sellers, it can be really confusing, especially as we diversify into multiple platforms and we're buying inventory. A lot of us have the personality, at least I'm assuming because I do, of wanting to jump headfirst into this, get all of our stuff, start selling inventory, and then we get way ahead of ourselves and then we think, oh yeah, taxes, I haven't been recording anything, I haven't kept receipts, now what do I do? So it's better to build a solid foundation before you start jumping into things and going too heavy into this. Build a foundation of knowing what your finances are. And I have to just tell everybody that Mark has a guide, of reselling finance and tax guide that my husband and I did in late 2017, or sorry, 2018, late 2018. And we went full force into every single module, and it changed the way that we track all of our inventory, the way we track my sales and everything. I mean, we just became really on top of it for 2019. And now everything was so simple with our taxes, which is an absolute first, because usually it just takes a long time and we go back and we get stressed and we almost signed divorce papers and then we don't. So this year, you saved our marriage, Mark, because we did not have to get into a big fight about taxes and keeping track of everything that we need. It was very, very simple. And that's a gift that all of you need to give yourselves, is financial peace when it comes to your business. Then it takes the mystery out. It takes the fear away. You know where your money's going. You know what to expect. It's not a surprise. It's not scary. And that's our goal. When we're done with our conversation, I hope everyone starts to see that there can be peace when it comes to your finances with your business. Okay. First things first, I get asked this a lot. If someone wants to start doing what we do, because you sell on Amazon, right? You only do really Amazon private label,
Yep.
Which is awesome. And I do eBay and Amazon. Do you need a business account? If someone wants to start selling on eBay, for example, do they need to run to the bank and open up a business account today? Or how can they start? Do they need an LLC? Do they need to worry about that in the beginning?
Yeah, not necessarily. I mean, one of the first pieces of advice I'd will give is to open up a separate account. You don't have to have one, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a business account, but it'll make your life a lot easier when you have to go back and, split out all your activity, either for your own profitability tracking purposes or for taxes. But if you are a sole proprietor, which is what you are by default, you don't have to do anything to become a sole proprietor. You just have to start selling. You can just open up a separate personal account if you want, or if you're a single. But if you're a single member LLC or something else, then you would want to have a business account just for liability reasons. But yeah, it's pretty simple to get started. There's not a whole lot you have to do.
A lot of eBayers, well, most eBayers' money goes through PayPal. Would you say, like, what should someone do if all their money and all their transactions are going through PayPal? Should they, like, where do they transfer that money out? Into that personal account? Like, or can they spend straight from PayPal? What would you suggest?
Yeah, you could do either. I mean, you could either spend straight from PayPal or make sure you have it go to a specifically designated account for your business.
Mm-hmm.
Ideally, you would have a business account and a business PayPal account. But again, if you're a sole proprietorship, it's not necessary. The main thing is just keeping all that stuff separate from your personal transactions. That'll help you the most, or that'll set you up with the best foundation to build on.
Definitely. And I'll share kind of what we do. All of my PayPal just stays in PayPal. I don't use PayPal. Like, how you go online, you could buy things with through PayPal, movie tickets, or even business expenses, like things I need to purchase for my business. I don't use PayPal. I transfer that out into my business account before making any expenditures. And that's just, again, to keep it simple. Move
That's
it
what
to
I
my
do.
business account, and then from my business account, if I want to take any out, I put it into another separate personal account. And that's just my fun money account. It's completely separate. And then I have everything just all then it doesn't get too mixed up, because we've run into that before. We've done PayPal, and then I've spent through PayPal, and then we have to go back and go, okay, well, was that Fandango purchase?
Mm-hmm.
Was that for your business, or was that for, obviously it was personal. So yeah, just to explain to everyone, that's what we do. And I think one thing to just keep in mind is just the more separate and compartmentalized you can make your finances, the simpler it will be come tax time. Would you agree, Mark?
Totally. Yeah,
Maybe.
that's the
Okay.
first piece of advice I give is separate your business from your personal, and getting a bank account is one of the first ways to do that.
And so, and like you said, it doesn't even have to be a business bank account. It can just be a separate personal account that holds all of your business transactions. Is that right?
In the beginning, yeah, if you're a sole
In the
proprietor,
beginning.
definitely.
Okay. But then if you want to move into like the LLC space, you're going to want to I already had an LLC before I started my business. So I just opened up a DBA, which is doing business as account. And that was separate. And that was how I opened my business account for just my reselling, because I have another business bank account for another business venture. So I have the two. And yeah, that's at least that's what I did, in case anyone's curious. And so is that what you would recommend as well, Mark, is once you get an LLC, how does that work? Did you go back to the bank and change that private account into a business account?
I don't know if they would change it. That
Okay.
would depend on the bank, but at least they might have you open a new one that's specifically a
Okay.
business account.
Okay.
Um, and that'll just, so when you have an LLC, you have liability protection,
Mm-hmm.
but so you can benefit from what they call the corporate veil, but there's certain things you have to do in order to keep that corporate veil strong. Like having keeping your, you have to act like a business. So part of that is having a business bank account. If you run everything through a personal account, that's going to weaken that corporate veil. And if anybody ever came after you, they'd be like, you're not even acting like a business, so you don't deserve that liability protection. So you just want to cover yourself by doing it the right way.
Definitely. And just really, it's just good all around advice to treat this like a business from day one if you can. And
Mm-hmm.
like not like a hobby, because like maybe we'll talk about, it's really not, you can't claim it as a hobby if you're making money from it, right? especially like on your taxes. And I think we've discussed this before. Like if you're making money from a venture, you will need to pay taxes on it or claim that income, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. I'm 2 for 2. You could I like as soon as like you want to correct though, and I'm super wrong, feel free.
Right.
Um so other people want to know, what do they do with their receipts? They come home from the thrift store, they put their stuff away in bins like mine, and they have these receipts. Do they keep them forever? Do they enter them into a spreadsheet? Like what's your advice?
Yeah, and this is one where people really overthink it. They probably stress about it way too much. Um, yeah, I mean, you want to record it somehow. You want to have some type of record, whether that be a logbook that you have, or whether you're recording all that into a spreadsheet. So that would be like your record. But then the IRS also typically wants to have some documentation or substantiation behind that, you know, and that would be a receipt or a bank statement or something external that substantiates those transactions. But the IRS doesn't really care about a $5 receipt or a $10 receipt, and people really worry about that. Like, what if I don't have a receipt for this garage sale purchase? But there's actually a rule, like they don't care if you don't have receipts that are less than $75 unless they're for lodging. But yeah, I don't know. And I don't like keeping physical receipts. Like I recommend just scanning everything and then putting into a digital folder and forgetting about it.
Okay.
Because it takes up space. It gets messy, and they fade after time anyway. So I think it's digital is better.
Right. And so another thing like just we do, and we've done this since we've talked, is when I go to garage sales, come home, I take all of my stuff, and I just immediately in a spreadsheet put down what each item was, what I paid, because it's fresh in my memory. And I just have that all of that transaction history there. There's no need to ask the person at the garage sale to sign a thing that says, "Hey, I bought this from you." Don't bother with that. I mean, and again, if I'm wrong, interrupt me. But
And
that's
unless it's a
what we
car
do for evidence. Unless it's a car, okay, yeah. Unless
or
it's like a
something
big,
really high value that you want to make sure
yeah.
that you have something extra substantiated.
Definitely, definitely, yeah. Okay. So that's good to know. That should help reassure people. So do you have any apps you recommend that are good for scanning receipts, or do you just take photos of it on your phone and put it into a folder? Like what do you recommend?
Yeah, I mean, I don't do a lot of sourcing that would require like scanning receipts and stuff, but two apps that people have recommended to me are like one's called ScanBot or Scannable is
Mhm.
another one. But I mean, there's a lot of pretty simple scanning apps or just picture snapping apps and stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, there's plenty out there. I believe QuickBooks Self-Employed, the app does have a feature that lets you take pictures of receipts. So that's one that I'd recommend if anyone wants to do that. Okay. And you have a spreadsheet, a reselling finance spreadsheet that is a free download on your website and in your Facebook group, right? And your website is what?
NotYourDadCPA.com.
Yes. And I will have all of his
I'll give you the link.
information linked in the description below for sure. And it is so handy and so helpful. And that is definitely a great starting place for anyone who's trying to start tracking their inventory. So Mark, what would you say like is what are the most important key things that someone needs to be tracking daily for their business, or even maybe weekly? You just tell us what's most important.
Yeah, I mean, ideally you want to have a really good visibility into your numbers and into your profitability, because that'll tell you if you're making money, and if you're not, you'll be able to make some decisions to determine what you need to do to change. So I mean, you want to have a record of your sales and all your different expenses, and there are different ways you can do that. You can use a spreadsheet to track everything, or you can get some type of bookkeeping software, and there's a lot out there. Some are more complicated, some are easier with less capabilities. Like, there's QuickBooks, there's GoDaddy Bookkeeping, Wave Accounting is a free one. But a lot of those you can connect your bank account So then it'll automatically import transactions that you're incurring. And it all depends on like what platforms you're selling on. Because not if you sell on 5 platforms, there's going to be some manual stuff that you have to do. Not everything integrates perfectly into one system. So there's no one size fits all. But in general, I like to have, my bank connected to my bookkeeping software. And then outside of that, I still keep track of my inventory in a spreadsheet. And then I update my inventory numbers monthly within my bookkeeping system. But then if I'm going in weekly and I'm categorizing the transactions correctly in my bookkeeping system, then I can, at any time I can pull up a report that shows me all the sales and expenses for each month. And I can see how my sales are trending, how my expenses are going up and down. Same thing with my profitability. And it's, for me as a CPA, that's like my favorite thing to do. Just like reconciling all my books, making sure everything is like perfect, and just seeing, hopefully, my numbers going up.
Right. You and my husband are one and the same, because that is his dream, is to just play with spreadsheets all day. And yeah, like that's kind of what I like to keep a spreadsheet. Our accountant is encouraging us to move to QuickBooks, but I just love the versatility of a spreadsheet and the like personalization. And I will explain what I do, and for the audience, and you tell me, you can just beep in when it's, Ashley, you're doing this wrong. But if I come home with, a saver's receipt or whatever, and I have 20 items and I paid, $100 for them, then I go into my spreadsheet in the expenses tab, put the date, put where I spent it, what card I spent it on, and then I just put in the notes. I got 20 items for $5 each, and then I will, in my spreadsheet inventory, immediately go and list those things. And so I'll say, Free People blouse or Joe's jeans or whatever. And although I wouldn't buy Joe's jeans, that was a bad example, but frame jeans, let's pretend. And so I'll put it all in my spreadsheet, put the cost I spent, when I got it, the date I got it, and then the inventory number as well. Just, what bin I have it in. I don't even have a specific inventory number. I just have a bin, and I will label it with that bin. And then when it sells, I find that item, and then I fill out the rest, how much it sold for, when it sold, and any additional notes that I want to put, shipping, how much shipping was, and any additional notes, like if it was a consignment or anything else like that. And that's kind of how I do it. And then I know at the end of the year, this is the best part. At the end of the year, I can filter by which items have sold and which haven't. And then I have, boom, cost of goods unsold, which is probably a scarier number to come up with for a lot of resellers, I would say. So how does that system sound? What am I doing wrong? Point me in the right direction.
I mean, that sounds fine. You're recording all your stuff right when it's fresh on your mind, and it's perfect. And a lot of people think, well, it's so tedious, like it's going to take so much time, but really, especially if you're having to list all that stuff eventually anyway, like just make that recording part of your listing process, like just one more step of listing that item. It's not that bad.
Exactly. And like, I've made it part of my shipping process. So in the mornings when I'm shipping, then I have all my information. I have what it sold for, I have what it was, shipping costs and everything, and the day it sold. And I can just immediately find that item, put it in. It's just, as I ship each item, I'm shipping it, and then it takes a second to load the shipping label even. And so while it's loading, I time myself, I try to hurry and get all that info in. And then usually then it's loaded and ready to print, and I'm done. And it's really like, just make it part of you take your inventory home, and then just make it the first thing you do. I write down my inventory, what I have, item by item, what I paid. And then you're not in a situation, which I was in my first year reselling. I did not do this. And we were very overwhelmed with cost of goods unsold. We did not know, and even cost of goods sold. We were, it wasn't simple. It was very complex and scary, and it took a long time. And again, that please learn from my mistakes.
And don't do that. And that's I mean, that's if you want to track everything individually, which you don't have to do.
Sure.
There's some benefit to doing it, but there's also like average tracking methods where
Hmm.
instead you could just record, the total dollar amount you spent and the total number of items. And then it has like this rolling average that it'll use to apply to your sold items to get your cost of goods sold.
Mm,
Um, but and I have a few spreadsheets, and one of them is an average costing spreadsheet that does this, and it has a video on it, so that's something else that people can check out if they want.
awesome. Yeah, definitely. And so you have, would you say like you prefer one over the other, or do you say like either one could work for anyone to, just depending on what their preference is?
Yeah, it just depends. Like one might be better for somebody than
Yeah.
yeah.
I think because I guess like an average, I kind of like to know personally, and then just sharing my experience, like what I spent on each item because it's going to make a difference in what I'm letting it sell for.
Hmm.
And sometimes I go to the bins and things are $1. And so I'll be like, cool, I can sell it for 10 and I'm fine with that. Or 10 plus shipping, right? And then sometimes I'm going to a thrift store, I'm paying $5 per item, and it's going to be more like I want to wait for this to sell for 20. So it just helps me remember, okay, this is how much I want to sell this for. Um, so anyway, but yeah, it sounds like it's really up to the seller what they want to do. But really, the bottom line, if you would agree, is have Siri keeps jumping up. It's really annoying. I should just turn it off, and I don't know how. Anyway, there's a way we want to have someone who is selling recording, having some kind of recording of their inventory and their costs. Is that right? Like how are they keeping track? There has to be some way.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Or maybe
and
not. Or is there or can they just look at the beginning of the year my bank account was this, at the end of the year my bank account was this, and this is what I'm paying taxes on. Like I hear sometimes people talk about that, and tell us about that. What are your thoughts?
yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I think the tracking is valuable because, I mean, some people even have columns for like color, size, brand, like all that stuff. So if you're tracking all that, that can give you really valuable data. Or you could track it more at a high level. But one of the benefits of tracking is that it helps you get your cost of goods sold, which is the deduction that you can take for your inventory. And
Hmm.
typically you deduct your inventory when you sell it. So that's called
Right.
the accrual method for inventory. And historically, that's what has been required. And that was true up until last year, or I guess
Oh,
2018.
really? Yeah.
Yeah, with some of the tax changes. So, and it was a really big source of confusion before that, and it still is. But technically now you can also treat your inventory according to the cash method, which means that you can just deduct it when you purchase it, which means
Okay.
which means you don't really have to track it because you can just look at the total that was spent, on your bank records. Um,
Huh.
but that's still not I feel like it was an unintended consequence of the tax changes. And I still wouldn't recommend it for most people, at least those who are really like wanting to grow or who are growing,
Hmm.
just because using the way that we've been talking about uh, gives you a lot better insights and visibility into your numbers. Um, but yeah, otherwise you can kind of just not worry about it too much.
Definitely. I think for me, well, since I have my YouTube channel and I do like to share my numbers, it's a useful tool for me to share with you guys is what did I spend? What sold? What's the percentage? What am I aiming for? So it's very useful data for me, and also helpful to see, well, I spent too much on inventory last year. My was I spending too much and was it selling for too little and was that a waste of my time? How can I get my, dollar per hour up or whatever? So, from a business standpoint, even though maybe it's not super necessary for taxes all the time, it's been helpful for me to do like as a business owner to see and to have goals for improvement. Because otherwise I wouldn't know these numbers and I would assume that what I'm doing is working when there's been times when it wasn't working and I had to make some adjustments and get cheaper inventory, etc.
Hmm.
Because you can have, I mean, and we've talked about this before, like you can have amazing sales numbers, gross sales numbers, but like what are you even taking home? Like your bank account balance might be like almost the same from the beginning of year to the end of the year. And you're like, what happened to all this money? So for me, it was just a really good accounting tool to just see for myself, have accountability to myself, like where my money is going. And ever since I started doing that and tracking it more carefully, I've seen a tremendous growth in my business.
Yeah.
Okay. Sales tax. eBay has started collecting sales tax, and I'll share my experience with everyone. We have an accountant who does our family and our business. We've had her for years and years, and every quarter she'd ask me, "What are your sales numbers?" Or for my state. So I would tell her what sold in my state, and she would file the sales tax numbers for me. But now eBay has started to collect sales tax for people. What does that mean for us? Will I still be sending my accountant sales numbers every quarter, or what does this mean for us?
Yeah, you might, depending on the state. So if you are registered, like registered.
No.
For sales tax.
Oh, sorry, you froze for a second. Maybe I
Oh,
froze.
it,
Sorry,
it,
can you repeat that real quick?
yeah.
Okay.
So
Uh-oh, it's frozen again. Oh, I think mine looks pretty good. Um,
I'm back.
oh, sorry. Are you there?
I just popped up.
Sorry. Okay. Is your connection okay, or is it me? Can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you. Let me
Okay. You're good. Okay.
just closing some
Sorry.
stuff. I don't know.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. Sorry. Third time's a charm. Can you tell us one more time what the eBay collecting sales tax means for us as resellers?
Yeah, so it might depend on the state, but anywhere that someone is registered to collect sales tax, even if eBay and Amazon and the platforms are now taking care of it for us, the state still has you on record and they're still going to be expecting a sales tax return from you, even though you're not going to owe any tax. So what a lot of states still require is for you to submit your sales tax return, and what you'll do is you'll list all your sales that were part of that state, sold to customers in that state. But then usually there's a field right below that'll say non-taxable sales, and you'll just list that same amount. So then the amount due will be zero.
Okay.
Basically, all your
Okay.
sales are non-taxable.
Okay. And so you still are accountable to share that information every quarter, even if you're not paying tax on it. You're saying it's non-taxable. Is that
Right.
right?
Yeah, it's just kind of an
Okay.
informational thing. And that's only in states where there are these marketplace facilitator laws that make the platforms collect for us. There are
Hmm.
still a few states that don't have those, which have to, still worry about collecting the sales tax.
Right, right. Okay, definitely that's really good information for people to know because it is a shift that's happening. Um, okay. Um, I am going to ask you just as like kind of a final question, what is the biggest mistake you see when resellers come to you? Sorry, I'm like throwing you a curveball because we didn't talk about this, but what is a mistake you see a lot of resellers coming to you with, like that you would advise if you could like warn people, please don't do this?
Yeah, I mean, the easy one is just not having kept track of their numbers. But I mean, that one's obvious. So another one is some people, well, yeah, I mean, a surprising amount of people come to me and they're like, I have a friend, or even my old CPA told me I needed to create an LLC, or that I needed to create an S corp. And those are like business structures that I typically wouldn't. Well, at least the S corp, I wouldn't recommend that for somebody on day one. Um, or even an LLC. Like if you're in California and you don't even have any sales yet, some people, they go out and they form an LLC because they think they have to, and they don't know that in California they charge you $800 minimum annually just to have that LLC.
It's
That's not the
crazy.
case in other states.
No, no. Utah's very, gosh, I think mine was $70, something it was very cheap. Yeah. So that's crazy. So you're saying you could be a sole proprietor for a while before needing to be an LLC.
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
definitely worth just kind of easing into it, getting your feet wet, and then because there's no rush to do any of that stuff. And then if the time comes, you're like, I think I'm going to stick with this. I want to grow. Then it could be a good idea to start thinking about it.
Okay, definitely. And I vouch for Mark. If you guys are looking for an accountant for you or CPA for you for your business, I don't know, Mark, are you inundated right now? Like, can you accept uh new clients for if they are desperate?
I keep telling people yes, so it hasn't caught up with me yet.
Okay, okay, good. Okay, so yes, Mark is available to do your taxes. And also, this was just such a brief, I mean, there's so much more to this topic than we can talk about in one YouTube video. So I just cannot recommend Mark's tax guide enough. It is linked below. You get $50 off if you use code HUSTLE, special for my audience. And yeah, like it is just so helpful and it brings such peace of mind. Like if your mind is stressed about your records, keeping track of things, your finances, taxes, it's really hard to focus on growing, on the fun stuff, the goals you have, getting new inventory, because every time you sell it, you're stressing, right? So it's just so nice to set a really solid foundation, set those good habits, those daily or weekly habits that are going to help you keep track of things. Um, and then you can just watch your business grow. And I personally have seen that. We've seen more growth than ever. And it is thanks to just setting the right foundation. And that was all because of your guide. Thank you, Mark. So we have loved it, and I cannot recommend it enough for all of you. I think it is such a bargain. You're getting so much information. I do hear from some people, well, this information's free. This is free information. And I'm like, well, you know what? If you want to go to irs.gov and go ahead and search and read the, I don't know, tens of thousands of pages of things, great. Or you can talk to someone who and read a guide from someone who has done all that work for you and has drilled it down to just the necessities and what you need to know, especially as a reseller. It's incredibly helpful. So, Mark, thank you so much. Any last tell maybe like for those of in our audience who aren't as familiar, what does your guide cover?
Yes, I mean it's actually I've made it even better since you went through the whole thing. Like I added a few modules and lessons and stuff, but really like you're talking about, one of the things that people come away with is just a sense of more peace of mind. And that's huge for your business, like you were talking about, because you can focus your energy elsewhere on the stuff that actually matters. But I just talk about all the different types of taxes that affect your business. Evaluating where you are now, talking about a hobby versus a business. The best business structure, LLC, S corp, all that stuff. There's a whole module dedicated to inventory. Because obviously that's one of the main parts of our businesses. How to maximize business deductions. We spend a whole module on that. Talking about knowing your numbers, how to keep track of your numbers, like just the importance of tracking your profitability, and just how to put all that together. And one question I get is this a course about, will this teach me how to do my taxes? And it's not. Like TurboTax teaches you how to do your taxes. It just walks you through it. But you're sitting there going, okay, why is it asking me that? Why is it asking me that? But it's telling you what to do. You just don't know why. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, this is going to teach you like what you need to be doing every day throughout the year. That's going to really help you optimize your tax situation when it comes time to prepare your taxes. Like, because that's, all the action, all the important stuff happens during the year. So yeah, that's really what it is. And yeah, I mean, we had a good bunch of people in there, and private Facebook group. So come join us.
Yes, in the Facebook group, People can ask questions. Are you doing any kind of like, do you have question answer sessions for people? Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so I'm actually starting this week for this last batch of people who came in, but we do like a weekly Q&A live coaching session for
Awesome.
almost for like each module. And then when we finish that, I'm just going to do like monthly live sessions after that. So, it's not like you're going to get it and I'm going to disappear. It's like you'll find help all throughout.
Absolutely. And that's something that like, I do not promote courses or things very often. I really don't. I keep it pretty simple because I only talk about and promote things I trust. And I trust Mark. He's too humble to say it, but he's absolutely brilliant. He knows what he's talking about. And like you will get the help you need. Like this I am passionate about. Finances I am passionate about because I was in a position years ago. I mean, since being married, I'm married to someone who's similarly minded to you. So he has helped. We have channeled our finances and we're all good now, but I've been in a place of chaos and I know how stressful it is. And like if I see someone who has answers, I'm going to promote the heck out of it. So this is very, very important. I cannot recommend it enough to all of you guys. Mark, thank you so much for hopping on
Absolutely.
my little channel. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And yeah, all your details, everything is down below in the description, you guys. So be sure to check it out. And Mark, where can everyone find you? Instagram, Facebook?
Yes. Yep. At Not Your Dad CPA on Instagram. Or I also have a free Facebook group called Accounting for Online Sellers that you can come check out. It's getting pretty lively lately. And or just my website,
Awesome.
notyourdadcpa.com.
Perfect. And Mark does have some ebooks. He has more than just the course. He has ebooks that are very helpful as well. If you want like a teaser for what the course actually teaches, it's a great like stepping stone. So, and yes, again, everything will be linked below. All right. Thanks, Mark. Have
Thanks.
an awesome week and good luck with tax season. I'm sure it's busy
Thanks.
for you. Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Okay.